It seemed like the perfect house for us. Sure, it had its issues, but we had no idea what was in store for us until we moved in. My wife Sylvia and I had been saving up for a while, looking for a house around Akron, when we decided on a more affordable small farmhouse near Sugar Creek. It was a typical modest Amish farmhouse, quaint and painted white. Despite the outrageously low price of the home, we needed to run new wiring and install basic plumbing, along with fixing the wafting foul odor that lingered in the home even after airing out the place. My wife knew this way of life, having left her community in Pennsylvania back when she was around 19. Driving into town, she happily pointed out different shops and parts of the town, remembering familiar names and farms. She enjoyed being able to speak the Pennsylvania Dutch language again, and chatted away with the shopkeepers. They seemed friendly and didn't mind that she was a former member, but the pleasantries ended when Sylvia told them that we had moved into the house on Schneider's Crossing, the one with the caved-in barn. The group of girls at the stall fell silent and stepped back. I couldn't understand what they said, but I could read the tension. The young woman among the group sternly told us to leave. It was a somber drive home. Was it because the house used to be owned by an old-order Amish family? I remember the realtor saying it was unusual for no one in the community to buy the house, but it had sat abandoned for close to 10 years. Sylvia had acknowledged that it was strange, but we just figured it was due to the barn being beyond repair. I salvaged what I could from the barn, hoping to reclaim some of the lumber, and used what pieces weren't covered in soot from the fire. There were some interesting etched designs on sections of the barn, intricate symbols. I figured I could use them to make a surprise furniture piece for my wife. It was a nightmare trying to find contractors to come out and work on our home, let alone remove the barn wreckage. None of the Amish workers would touch our property. It was like the property itself had been shunned. We began to receive hand-painted, ornate symbols in our mailbox. I didn't know what to make of them until my wife found them and informed me that they were hexes, a rarely talked about tradition of Dutch magic. I began to notice their symbols throughout the town more and more, on barns and buildings, on quilts. She told me that their designs bring good luck and fortune, but the ones that we received were sigils, seals of malevolent forces, demons. Sylvia went to stay with some friends for the time being, having refused to stay there unless we had a practitioner cleanse the house. I didn't know what to do to alleviate my wife's uneasiness. Yeah, I thought it was strange, but I couldn't put much weight to it. We had already sunk so much money into this house, and hiring city contractors to come out in the following days. I just didn't have any energy left to deal with superstitious beliefs. The workers started on the second floor, working their way down, when I got a call from them saying that they had found some strange things in a wall. Here's the source of the smell. The lead contractor made us put on masks as he pulled back some of the drywall. Stacked to the ceiling inside the wall were bundles of animal carcasses, bones, since rotten, now dried flesh and fur, wrapped in painted newspaper. I coughed in horror, plucking a piece of newspaper from the wall. On the inside of the paper was a hex painted in red. Taking a sledgehammer, we snapped several pieces of the walls in the room. Piles of animal carcasses filled out with twined branches and endless dried bloody hexes. I couldn't tell my wife the truth about the house, the growling and footsteps at night, or that I'm currently living in a motel until the practitioner arrives to cleanse and exorcise the house. This is the last resort. I don't know what I'm going to do if they can't help. I had just gotten the text when our power went out. There weren't any clouds in the sky. It seemed like any other August night in small-town Ohio. I tried to send a screenshot to my close friend and neighbor, Eleanor. She lived about a half mile or so up the gravel road. Might as well and just drive, I thought. Sure she'd like the company. Walking out to my car, I noticed that the nearby small town was extra bright that night, with almost a purplish hue. As I pulled in, I could see Dale rushing around loading things into the old pickup. Eleanor was on the porch sitting in her glider chair, smoking a cigarette with her poodle on her lap. "What's going on?" I asked, cautiously stepping onto her porch. "I don't know. He's been running around like a chicken with its head cut off." She sighed. I'd heard from my parents about how Dale leaned on the paranoid, and Eleanor just got used to it over time. Oh, I'd say a good 30 now. Something he heard on that ham radio. You know how they get. About the state of emergency? What do you mean? She leaned over to snuff out her cigarette. I just got the text. Then my service went out. I handed her my phone. Her expression changed as she read the capitalized text. Dale was hurriedly stuffing a blue tarp over the items in the bed of the truck before slamming the tailgate in place. Come on, Eleanor, I'm serious here. Emma, you're more than welcome to come. He pulled an old railroad watch from his front pocket. We're leaving in 10. He hopped up the stairs and I could see him starting to unlock their gun safe behind a decoy cabinet in their dining room. Eleanor's demeanor changed to that of slight panic. She delicately pleaded with me. Why don't you come with us? We've got plenty of things up at the cabin. I'd always loved spending time up at the lake when my siblings and I were younger. They were good friends with my folks, and they were like extended family. But how long were they planning on staying? I couldn't just leave the horses, especially now that I was the only one tending what was left of the family farm. Dale shuffled by, holding out a handful of shotguns with a military canister of ammo. Eleanor, we gotta go. She hugged me tightly, whispering to take care, before he ushered her to the truck with her poodle in his arm. Your car's probably not going to last much longer. Chip will be fried soon. I'd get out while you can, and stay clear of South, especially Dayton. He hopped into the truck. Take care, kid. He quickly reversed and wound the truck around the garage to a pathway that cut through the tree line to the old utility road that led north out of town. I felt so small and alone in that moment. He was right. My car didn't start. Maybe I should have gone with them. Dale had left his ham radio on. I listened to the wild speculations and arguing. Attacks on cell phone towers, interference with foreign space technology. I didn't know what to believe. Maybe it was all just pandemonium spurred by a brief disruption of the day-to-day, causing people's true fears to manifest. Among the bickering, a voice came through. He was trembling, talking about seeing something fall from the sky, a sweet smell in the air, and a growing military presence ascending on his town. A small town just south of us, about halfway to Dayton. You could hear muffled gunfire in the background as he said he was getting out of Dodge for a while, and abruptly ended his transmission. The other radio operators erupted in a crazed frenzy when the power went out. The world fell silent around me. I looked out at the horizon as I jogged back to my home, seeing the pulsing pink light in the distance, straining to hear any sound, met only by my heavy breathing and shoes on the gravel. My horses were whinnying in their stable as I stumbled in. Should I try and wait out whatever this was? I didn't have any weapons. I never needed any before. I decided to saddle up and ride into town, cutting through Mr. Parsons' field to get a feel for what was going on. Approaching the town square, I saw the subtle glow of townspeople clustered in the road, also holding lanterns or small candles, with some keeping watch at the top of the town hall building. They turned, hearing Molly's hooves clopping from gravel to pavement. Who's that? The voices overlapped in the thickening fog. I lined up with a few on horseback, while the others continued to contemplate what on earth was going on. Could it be a transformer? One asked. No, afraid not. What about a train derailment? Another cut off Mr. Bronson, the town's elected official. Could explain the sound. Doesn't the air smell funny? The rail line is... No. They saw the light descend from the southeast, strike, maybe land, over by the factory, he tried to calmly relay. As of right now, we don't think there's anything to worry about. We've got a crew driving out there. We all knew it wasn't a dog food factory, especially with the shipments getting hauled back to Wright-Patterson. But with the well-paying jobs and kickback cash from the government, you kept your mouth shut, even when the contract ended. Mr. Bronson, Mr. Bronson, the young Floro brothers yelled, running from the town hall building. Helicopters coming from over the ridge. Before we could turn, there was another loud boom. Molly bucked me off. The buildings rattled. Everyone ducked and scattered from fright. It was chaos. We could hardly see through the thick smoke, or was it fog? It pulled us this way and that, whipping us about, separating the group, as we fought to gather inside the town hall building. A few children cried while we linked arms with those who needed it, working our way down, pathway lit by a lone lantern, into the forgotten shelter, deep in the basement. They slid the heavy door closed. I glanced around the cramped room among 12 others. Bombers, Mr. Stetson mumbled, the old town historian, now stricken with dementia. You could tell the men in charge were trying to turn ideas into action. You could feel the tension in the air, but they didn't want to admit to the real possibilities, unleashing sheer panic. They pressed their bodies against a steel door, trying to force a better seal, as a pink, smoky fog began to seep in. I began to feel dizzy. The room was spinning. "Are they coming back for the craft?" one of the older women whispered. We heard another loud boom. It rocked the town hall. Dust shook onto our heads as we huddled together. A closer explosion rattled above us, blades of a falling helicopter slicing closer before crashing somewhere up top. "Maybe revenge." An older man leaned back with a somber, defeated look. "Gassing us, like we gassed them." We felt like we were met with our fate, as we heard something otherworldly scratching at the door. "Don't say that," his wife cried, coughing and holding her grandchildren. "How were we supposed to know?" We knew what we did. We all knew.